They say that you have to make these massive changes, but if you do a 1% change each day and compound that over the course of the year, you think, oh, it sounds like 300%, 365%, but it's actually 3,000% of improvement. What we need to do is that usually when we're taking goals, it's like we feel like we're jumping out of a 10-story window. But we have to understand that the goal has to start with a step off the curb. You got to get yourself a win out of the gate to get going. But we set these goals like, oh, today I'm going to be on my path to lift 300 pounds. Like, okay, what's your bench right now? It's 185. It's like, okay, well, let's get to 200 first, right? Let's set up a stage that we get there so we can get that one off the board. But we set these goals so far off that your mind isn't used to breaking the mold or breaking the pattern to understand how to get there.
Coming to you from Area 15 Ventures and Start With a Win headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. We're joined by Jason Yarusi today, a dynamic entrepreneur who's built and exited multiple businesses, including a construction company, restaurants, and a brewery. As a private fund manager, Jason oversees over $300 million in commercial real estate with his company Yarusi Holdings, amassing more than 3,000 apartment and commercial units since 2017. He's also an ultra marathon runner, host of the Live 100 and Multifamily Live podcast, and leads the seven-figure multifamily mastermind. Beyond his professional achievements, Jason is a dedicated husband and father to 3 amazing kids. Jason, welcome to Start With a Win.
Adam, thanks for having me.
Hey, you've got a really interesting background. So I want to do a quick flyover real quick of that. The reality is, folks, this guy is a grinder. He gets out, he makes things happen, he gets things done, and he doesn't give up. He's got the great mindset to go the distance. And, you're part of your history, ultramarathoner and somebody who goes after it. Jason, how did you get to where you are today? Take us just real briefly through a snapshot of Jason Yarusi's life.
I think so many times we're worried about failure, right? So we just set a stage that we just follow the path that someone else says we should do, right? And then we're very scared to just go off that path. And I've been in that path where I saw my dad struggle, with our small construction business, family business. Saw him struggle for a long time, right? And that was that hard thing that my mom was constantly pushing me to go a different direction, but I just didn't really have that energy to go that direction. And then in high school, I had a lot of losses, right? So my best friend died in a boating accident. My neighbor, who was my friend forever, committed suicide. I had a girlfriend for 4 years. She got in a car accident. So I was just really lost going to college, right? I played football for a bit in college and I just went there without really even just having any confidence or guidance. It just felt like a lot was just lost and it just felt out of control. And that was just growing up, right? I got a degree from college in finance and I just had no desire to go in that path. I kind of just was doing things that were just in front of me. Moved into New York City. I started working odd jobs, working in bars and restaurants, and lo and behold, just wasn't happy with anything I was getting, right? So I was doing chaotic things, getting chaotic results, and then asking why. Right. And and that's that thing that many of us have in our lives where we do all these things that we don't like. And then we get all these results we don't like. And then we're just shocked that we're not getting the life we deserve or that we want. And one night it's 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm on my bike riding home across the city from a bar I'm working at. And nowhere I get hit by a car. And phone the air, and I'm in the hospital. And about a day later, I get out. I got a pin in my wrist, I had a crack in my shoulder, stitches in my face, and all I'm thinking about is I need to get back to work because I have to make money for rent. And I had this moment of pause where I was like, okay, so all I do is complain about what I'm doing right now. Then I get hit by a car, and all I want to do is get back to exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so something has to stop. But the pinnacle moment is that most of us say that, but we don't know what to do. So we just go back to do exactly what we don't want to do. And so I made this agreement with myself where if I just keep doing it, I just have to stop complaining or just do something different. And so I just didn't know what to do. So I started doing the opposite. Stop staying out late and drinking, get up at a set time in the morning, start working out again, start reading books, start taking in information. I had this agreement with myself. I left college, I never had to learn again. And it was you think about that. It was so outside the box of anything that was just an honest response about how you should go about the world. And it wasn't magical, but overnight, things started to change, right? My mind got more positive, right? I started to have things come into my world instead of seeing everything as a negative, started seeing things as a positive. And the snowball just started to work from where I went from, working behind the bar to opening a bar, opening a restaurant in New York City. I opened and sold a brewery before actually moving to New Jersey and helping my dad with the family construction business and helping him really change the narrative on that business. Got him retirement. We moved into real estate as the next chapter of our life. And We started in single family, moved into multifamily. And from there to today, we've grown a portfolio. We've acquired a little over about 350 million of multifamily real estate.
Wow. It's incredible just listening to that rapid fire story of your life and the mindset shifts you've gone through in order to accomplishment. It seems like, as you said, everything started when you got hit by the car. As far as, wait a sec, wake up, you've got to make some changes here. How do we realize that moment if we're, the average person on the street and we're stuck in that rut? We're riding our bike home in the middle of the night from the bar that we just closed down. How do we get hit by the car without getting hit by the car? How do we have that realization without a tragic moment or, a near life and death situation?
You have to understand the scale of both sides, right? So we, in our minds, always see the worst thing, right? Because we usually have bad things happen to us. And so it's easier for us to see the worst thing happening, right, than the best thing happening, right? So if the 1% of 1% is I ride home from my work and get hit by a car, well, then the other side of it is the 1% of 1%, right? I can go out there and change my life and have a magical life and, and meet the person that I love and, be in great shape and have a job that I really love to be around, have a great family, make a ton of money, really go and travel, right? That's a possibility too, but we can't see that because we haven't done that. But when you have to say, okay, if I can figure out that this is the worst thing, well, the chance of that worst thing happening is very rare. And the chance of the best thing could be very rare, but somewhere in the middle, you have to make a choice. Do you want to be in a scale where you're having the worst days all the time or the best days? And you think you have to make these dramatic changes where like tomorrow you have to get up at 3 a.m. and then you have to run 3,000 miles. And then you have to go and, put all your money into something and go all out and go for it. No, that's not what has to happen. You just have to start changing little things each day. They say that you have to make these massive changes, but if you do a 1% change each day and compound that over the course of the year, you think, oh, it sounds like 300%, 365%, but it's actually 3,000% of improvement. So you think about that. If you could just get up at a set time tomorrow and drink a glass of water and do a 15-minute workout and do that continually for the rest of the year, what could happen? If you get up and instead of saying, I can't do this, and just think of the words that are coming into your mind, the thoughts you're having, and being just self-aware and start saying, well, why can't I? Or why not me? Or how can I? Or like, what can I do to do that? You start opening your mind to being someone who doesn't just look at problems as a problem. You look at a problem as a solve, like something I can solve and create a solution for. And things start to change when you do that. It sounds silly, but if you just start thinking about something in a way completely opposite of what you're doing, it pushes and forces your mind to have a reaction that it's not a constant negative and to start to open up the positivity that's available at all times.
So you think it's about understanding where those little micro wins are and coming from and actually recognizing them because we have them every day. But I guess what we focus on is those micro losses more than anything, don't we?
You think about if you ever had like a splinter, right? And you have this huge body and all this part, you get a splinter in your finger and all your attention goes there, right? And just this little thing is right in your splinter. Or if you have a glass of water, right? Say you have a glass of black coffee, right? And you take a drop of water and a drop of water is positivity and you put it into that black coffee. There's no change, right? But if you take that black coffee and take just a drop from that and you put it into a glass of water, the whole water is distorted. That's negativity to positivity in a nutshell. We can take the little part, right? Somebody cuts us off, going to work. And for our day is ruined because of 9 seconds where somebody may have just not seen us or they're rushing to the hospital. Who knows, right? But that 9 seconds it sets the stage for your fantastic day to be ruined. But on the other side, if you have something great happen and you've had a horrible day, that horrible day crushes that good thing. So if you put in perspective of how your day goes, and I like to say like there's 5-second problems and 5-year problems. The 5-second problem is where something happens like that you say, okay, that just happened and you just let it go. But most of us can't. We get stuck on it. Right? Versus the 5-year problem, something that's going to be transformational that if you don't deal with it right now, it could set the stage to just, crush you financially, hurt you physically, right? Anything in those parts. Well, that's where you have to put your attention to. But we treat them all the same. It's like we're running a car at like RPM, like 8,000 at all times. That's how we treat our problems and treat our urgency and treat our stress. But you have to say like stress is good. Stress is good in the right way because we put stress upon us. The problems that seem like problems 5 years ago, you can't even remember today. But 5 years ago, they were crushing us. Right. But as you grow in the right way, you want to see those problems because those are the challenges that help you to be, mentally fortify your mind and create obstacles that you can go across, right? And get through it to the other side because on the other side is the greatness that you want that most people are just stopping. You're just saying, oh, there's a roadblock.
That's interesting. And your analogy to, as somebody cutting you off in traffic, or you're going somewhere and just something small and silly happens, and then it ruins our whole day. Or maybe it doesn't. And you look at it and go, that's not going to get me. It seems like happiness is an advantage here. Tell me what that means to you when you take these challenges that seemingly can just, really upset you, and you see somebody road rage and they just get super pissed off, and you're going, wow, that person is really miserable. And other people, they just wave and smile. What's the difference? Why is that happiness so much of an advantage there?
Yeah, it's easy to say, but life can happen for you or against you, right? And that's an easy thing to say. But most of us go through our day, and I was guilty of this forever, where I felt like everything was against me. But when you see that, then you see everything as a challenge, and it just compounds, right? But if you look at today, is that we all have our challenges, right? Even if you're whatever you're showing on Instagram or whatever you're putting out to the world, right? We're all facing challenges in some way. It could be mentally, physically, emotionally. We have a sick, relative, our kids are having challenges, right? Our business is having challenges, right? We're all facing challenges. It just, many of us wear those on our sleeve at all times instead of just saying, okay, oh, this has happened to me. Oh, woe is me. I feel bad for me. But if you turn it around and say, okay, this has happened, but on the other side of it, right? I have healthy kids. I have an amazing wife who's there for me. Right? This is a blink in time that has happened right now, but it's not something that's going to change my future, right? This is a moment in time that I can learn from. How can I learn from this? How can I progress? And when you think about that, you let it go in a way that you say, okay, I need to deal with it and get it go. But I remember watching struggles for people around me for years. And what they would do is they would hide those struggles, right? There's a bunch of bills to pay, but instead of okay, how are we going to figure out how to bill this pay? Let's just put them into the drawer, as if that was going to solve it, right? We just won't look at them,
right?
But what happens, right? It's on your mind. It's in your mind. You're not dealing with it. And so it just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow into this thing that you can't get over, right? Because now it's Mount Everest. But if you look at a challenge and say, okay, this is in front of me right now. Let's just get through it. Just get done with it. Okay, that's one thing off, and you start making progress, because progress is everything. We think, again, you have to create, today I have no money in my bank account. Tomorrow I have to figure out how to be a millionaire. So everything in between is a failure, right? But okay, if you have no money today, what can you do today to create value, to start creating some income, some revenue, right? Because that next part of figuring out the action is where the reward is. But we really value the goal as a reward. But in your life and in my life, the goal is something that happens, and maybe it happens in 3 weeks, you hit the goal. It's not oh, life is over. Fantastic. I hit the goal. Now it's the next day. But the whole time you spend on doing the actions, doing the work. And if you can find value in the actions and understand the actions are where the rewards are, life becomes a lot more pleasurable, because now you're focused on the actions, not on something that may happen in 3 weeks, but it might happen in 3 years. You don't know when it's going to come. And that's the beauty of life.
So true. So true. It's interesting when you look at this, because life is an endurance sport. It really, truly is. And it can't be, okay, I want to finish this sport. I want to cross the finish line after, in your case, running 100 miles, or, finishing a game and either winning or losing, whatever it might be. There's an end game to all of those particular items. But ultimately, you're right. The people who are truly successful look at it as the action is the thrill of the moment. That's what I'm going after, is creating action and getting better at that every day. Not the goal that eventually I'll achieve, because my action will help me actually out-achieve that goal if I focus on that action. So you have a really cool way of putting together this, this way for getting rid of bad habits and creating lasting success. You call it Break Free, a blueprint for ditching bad habits and achieving lasting success. And there's 3 phases in this. And I want to talk about these 3 phases briefly. I encourage everybody to go out and check out Jason in order to understand this blueprint, because it's very helpful to get deep inside of this when you have the opportunity. But the first phase is the break phase. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think so. It's break, build, and magnify, the 3 foundational blocks.
Yep.
With break, really, most people want to get to the build, right? They don't have the foundation, and you just want to build the house, right? And out there on soil, right? And you can imagine how that goes, right? But you have to really look internally about yourself, right? So you have 3 pillars, right? 3 principles that fall within the break block, and it's being self-aware, owning where you are and positioning yourself for greatness. And what that means is that you have to be self-aware how you're showing up, right? If you walk into a room and your shoulders are slouched and, and you're woe is me, you're like Eeyore, right? And everything is a negative, right? And you're putting that feedback into the world, right? And the words you're using, the labels you're using, everything is not serving you or serving the people around you. You have to notice that, right? You have to say, okay, it's like, I like to think, the King Arthur's round table, right? He had all these people come together. It was servants, it was knights, it was commoners. All these people to come together had different values to help them go against and hope we not have war into the future, right? That's the principles in your mind, right? You might have love, kindness, but you might have anger, gluttony, hatred, right? You have all these things that are fighting for your attention, and you have to notice what is winning the day in my mind. And you have to be aware of that. And then you have to own it, right? That doesn't mean you have to put yourself down and kick yourself for being, having negativity or all these bad thoughts, right? But you have to own it. And the reason you have to own it, because then you can take onus to say, okay, how can I change this? How can I change what's happening in my mind? Because how you can look to change this is that when you go to the third principle, position yourself for greatness, you say, okay, today I'm a person that's not succeeding in my life. My business is not achieving the levels of growth that I think it can. I'm having struggles with my wife. I'm not being present with my kids. But I want to show up as a person who stands up, who's a leader in my business, who's a great husband to my wife, who is always present when I'm there with my kids. Okay, so the values you have today, right, where you're egocentric, right, where you're focused on gluttony, where you constantly have negative thoughts, where you're hatred. The person on the other side of that, right, if they were looking at you, is that the person that shows up, that's loving, that's kind, that's a leader in his business, that's a great husband, that's there for his kids. So what are the values that person has? Because if that person is showing up and they have empathy, right? They also have confidence. They have self-awareness. Then you can look at where you are and where you want to be. And you can say, what's the first step to get there? What's the steps that I can start to grow into my mind so you can take action? Which gets back to our prior discussion, is that you can track actions. You can say, okay, the result may come, but you can track the actions you do. You can say, okay, what are the 3 things I need to change today? I can get up, right? And I can go and say good morning to my wife instead of saying, hey, is breakfast ready, right? Or, something simple like that, right? Instead of going and just, accusing my staff of never hitting goals, I can make sure they're clear and understanding of our core values, understanding what our goals actually are, right? I can make sure I'm putting in the work for them so I can set the stage and make my life better. And when you do that, you can start breaking the mold of what you were before, so you can start chiseling the new future of who you want to be.
I love this. You tear it down so you can build it up. So let's get into that second phase, the build phase. Talk to us about that.
So building is a part. Now you get to the part of positioning yourself for greatness, right? Well, now you have to have habits and rituals. So what are the habits and rituals that you need to bestow upon yourself, right? Because those habits and rituals are so important. Because when you look at those habits and rituals, those are the make and breaks of everything, right? Those are the tools, right? Those are the steps. Those are all the pieces that you are going to become. Then you have to master them. So you have to start mastering those habits and rituals daily. And we think they have to be big things, but it could be, if you're not healthy, okay, instead of getting up and drinking Mountain Dew, get up and drink a glass of water, right? Just doing these things that can start to change the narrative very slowly, so you can form. You see like the New Year's resolution. People say they want to get in shape, right? 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. It's because they get out of the gate on day one and hadn't worked out in 9 months, and they go work out for 4 hours in that first day, and then they can't move for 3 days, and they're like, I can't do this again, right? Or they lose 30 pounds in 3 weeks, and all of a sudden they're like, well, I don't know what to do now, so they just start going back to their habits and they gain the weight back. Well, you have to start mastering habits and rituals that can incorporate into your life and become your life. Because the 5th principle is intentionally executing, where you can start to intentionally execute where you are, right? So you can start lead your life to where you want to be, because that builds upon yourself, right? So when you think about this, you have to execute in a way that can really serve the future you, because you want to do things that you can replicate not only today, but it can become your life. And you'll have seasons, right? There might be seasons where you might need to execute in a different fashion, right? There might be a very busy family season, right? So your energy needs to go there, or a sick family member, right? Your energy needs to go there, or there's some pressing deal that you need to close, and your energy needs to go there, right? So you may have to understand what your seasons are, but you have to execute in a way that serves you, that can carry you forward. And that really leads us into that part here. When you grow into that next stage of your life, right, you can start to accelerate that growth, right? Because now you're putting in a fashion where everything's moving in a track that can really carry you forward. And when you have that, right, what happens in in most of our lives, we just want the growth. We want the Instagram success. We want to go and just really not doing well in my life, but tomorrow I'm going to change and everything's going to work. But it's like you have a car and you're trying to go drive a car with no wheels. So when you do this, you can move yourself into the last step, break, build, and magnify, where you can start to accelerate your growth and you can start to have awe-inspiring rise. And I've jumped a little just for time here, right? But the awe-inspiring rise is that last section where you're in a part where you're growing, you're hitting on all cylinders. But most importantly, you're starting to help other people come along the ride with you. We always think it's about ourselves, right? We always think it's about us, like being our best version of ourselves. But we forget that we're only at our greatest form when we're helping others too. We're helping others to realize how they can be their best self. Because if you're in a room where you're constantly bringing everybody down, that's very easy to do. But why not be in a room where you're constantly bringing everybody up? We've all been around people that walk into the room and make everybody better. That's what the message serves with Live 100. It's a message that you not only can transform yourself to live your best life, but you can help improve everybody around you.
That's awesome. I really love this blueprint here. It's very simple and very defined. The one question I have for you is, how can we build personal accountability into this? Because, as you know, we can put the best plan in front of somebody and they can try it a couple times and maybe they get through a week. Just like the example of, the number one New Year's resolution in existence, to lose weight. But yes, how many people end up executing on that? Maybe 5 to 8% ever. So, there's no accountability. How do we build accountability into building success in our personal lives?
Create progress and wins. And it sounds so simple, but it's so hard to do. And I'll give you an instance. So, my aunt, she had a problem just like losing weight because she was on that track of just in this part. And so we just came up with an idea, like she wasn't able to like go run, right? She's just on the verge. She's at 60 now and wasn't able to go and like do these big workouts. And I was like, well, are you walking? She's like, yeah, I just kind of walk here to there. I was like, okay, well, let's just walk a mailbox a day. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but what happened is first day walk 1 mailbox, second day walk 2 mailbox, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but you just get on and do it, right? And if you commit, okay, every day at 9 a.m. I'm going to walk a mailbox, right? After a week, walked 7 mailboxes. After 2 weeks, 14 mailboxes, right? After a month, right, we're at about a third of a mile, and lo and behold, got up to a mile, then 2 miles of walking just by that little action. And what happened each day is you said, oh, I just got to walk 1 more mailbox. So there was a game with it, right? You gave yourself something to act to. You gave yourself some progress marker, some part. What happened? She got healthier and she stuck to the model because this model wasn't something that was so far stretched from where you are. And what we need to do is that usually when we're taking goals, it's like we feel like we're jumping out of a 10-story window. But we have to understand that the goal has to start with a step off the curb. You got to get yourself a win out of the gate to get going. But we set these goals like, oh, today I'm going to be on my path to lift 300 pounds. Like, okay, what's your bench right now? It's 185. It's like, okay, well, let's get to 200 first, right? Let's set up a stage that we get there so we can get that one off the board. But we set these goals so far off that your mind isn't used to breaking the mold or breaking the pattern to understand how to get there, right? And that's the big difference. Like, I remember buying our first multifamily building. We had brought, duplexes and triplexes before. And then the next one we brought was a 94 unit. And it was a big jump, right? But I had great feedback to set up all of the pieces, right? It was like, instead of just trying to play chess without, having the pieces on the board, I set up all the pieces, right? Understood the market I wanted to be in, understood the building type I was going after, understand all of the positions I needed, property manager, all of the, insurance, mortgage broker, we'll say a lender, right? Everything that came with the puzzle right there, who were going to be my investors, what kind of lawyers I'm going to have on board. And I had all these pieces lined up. So as I went through and understood the deal and found the deal, I had all this energy building into the deal. Instead of me just saying, let me get the deal. Okay, I got this property. Okay, now what are all the pieces, right? And now I have to go build it all backwards. And that gave me enough energy to understand what I want to do, the model of how to do it, how to implement that model, and then how to succeed with that model. And that's been the use case that we've carried through to buy multiple buildings going forward.
That's incredible. I mean, it's listening to you here. It seems like you establish these limiting beliefs and you go, okay, here's my boundaries. And then you inch your way towards them. And next thing you know, you're surpassing them. And it's uncomfortable. I mean, let's face it, folks, passing up your limiting beliefs is really uncomfortable. But if you do it 1 foot at a time, it's easy because you're getting better every step you take. And Jason is showing that so well here. really, we're breaking these habit chains is what you talk about. And, what are your favorite reference materials for this? Do you have any favorite books or quotes or anything that you've gone back to? Anybody inspired you in order to get you into this place?
What's the line is, no man ever steps in the same river twice, right? And so there's many books that, like, what it is that you find one book that works for you, and then you can use it at different stages, right? And whether that be the Bible or some Stoic philosophy, right, or something about habits, right? Any book can carry you forward. It's more just implementing through the book. And what I find with that is that you can do anything, like YouTube videos on inspiration, things that get you going in the morning. Just find something to get you out of the gate. Because I find with this, like, book or reference point, it's all about starting your morning out of the gate. Because if you start the morning in chaos, your day follows in chaos and you end in chaos. And you ask, how did I get here and why? I'm never going to do this again. And then you do the next thing the next day, right? So I find that if you can just do 3 or 4 things in the morning, get up at a set time, have a glass of water, maybe 15 minutes of movement, 5 minutes of meditation. Say that's your morning, right? If you can do that consistently, or like, does every day go perfect? No, but like, say you get it out, 5 or 6 of the 7 days a week, you will start growing a track in your mind and in your patterns that will lead to more successes, because you basically said, I'm going to do this. And then you did that. That's a differentiator. Usually it's that I should do this. I think I want to do this. And then you never do this. But the difference in people who do it, just say, hey, I'm going to do this, and then get up and do it. When you start that, you not only set the stage for you, right? But you set the stage for your mind. Because when you start doing that, you prove to yourself that, you know what? I've been saying I was going to learn to play the guitar forever. Well, I just picked up the guitar and started playing the guitar. Because what we usually do in our lives now is like, I should learn to play the guitar. Well, let me see if I can schedule this in the 3rd week of November. And I'll find an hour at 2:00, and then that comes, you forget about it. Instead of just being like, well, there's a guitar, let me just pick it up and start playing. And you start doing that 5 minutes a day. That's the difference all right there. You want to do something, do it right now, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit the next day, and lo and behold. I think about it like, if I'm 46, if I started playing the guitar at 23, think how great it was. Right. But I still haven't played the guitar. Right. Because at this point, but at this point, if I started playing the guitar at that point, think of where I was today. But at 23, I was telling myself it's too late to play the guitar.
Well, it illustrates the point that I've been told by a wise person. If it's important, you'll find a way. If it's not, 100%. You'll find an excuse.
That's right.
So I love it. Jason, you've set me up perfectly to ask you this question that I ask all the great leaders on our show. And that's, how do you start your day with a win?
Yeah. So get up at a set time, a consistent time. I get out of bed. I do have a glass of water. I basically said what I do, right? I'll go and meditate for 5 minutes. I'll get a workout in. I come back out, and my wife's getting up. Get my kids off. I take them to school, and I set those up. And those are some non-negotiables that I do in the morning. And then that gets me into where I'm ready to go when I get to the office, or I get to my next point of reference where I need to be, because my mind is clear. I'm fully engaged. I'm ready to go out of the gate, and I can focus on what's ahead.
Awesome. Jason Yarusi, thanks for being such a great example to so many people. You're a huge success. Keep going, buddy. You just haven't found the peak yet, and it's going to keep getting bigger and higher, and life is going to keep getting better for you.